Welcome to I See You, a podcast where we know that human connection restores mental health and resilience. I'm your host, Julie DeJesus, and I see you. Let's be friends. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the I See You podcast, where we talk all about how human connection restores mental health and resilience. We have conversations and stories all around this topic. And for that reason, I'm excited to have a guest today that I met at a conference recently, and his name is Dakota. Welcome to the podcast, Dakota.
Thank you so much for having me, Julie. I appreciate it.
I'm excited because you came to this conference where I spoke with your parents, which was super cute. And I feel like we don't always see these days is the youth hanging out with their parents. There's a lot of division, I think, sometimes, like our previous generations don't get it, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of bagging on millennials, or I just feel like there's could be a lot of contention and division there. So I loved watching the way you and your parents just interacted.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like even your clothes style looks totally different from theirs. And yet it's not like, I just loved it. I loved the whole vibe of that family situation. And I was like, that's what I want in my family. And then to learn you and your mom are actually starting a project together to help with this very thing.
Yes.
Which we're going to dive into, but let's just start. Tell me about Dakota.
Absolutely.
Okay. Is there someone in your life that needs to feel seen? I'm super excited because the I See You collection is back, baby. And now we are doing completely free shipping and free personalized notes to anyone in your life that needs to feel seen. We all are struggling with different things. If you want to make someone feel seen and you honestly just don't know what to say, go to iculiving.com/collection and choose a gift to make someone feel truly seen.
Well, I appreciate your comments on our family. Family is just something that's so important to us, and something that we really prioritize is that connection and just really coming together as a single unit. So I appreciate that comes across to other people. Well, a bit about me. I'm from Spokane, Washington. That's where I'm recording from. I'm actually currently living in the same neighborhood I grew up in, just different house that my husband and I rent here. And I am a hairstylist. I have a extensive
Is that why
background.
your hair is so amazing? That makes sense now looking at you. I'm like, your hair is always incredible.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I do it
Yes.
myself.
Yes.
I have an extensive background in musical theater, so performance is a love. Singing is my absolute biggest passion. I love it. My grandmother was my first voice teacher, and she actually started a theater program at my elementary school when I was 8 years old, I think, because I didn't have any friends at the time. So she was like, well, why don't you join a theater? Why don't you join drama club? And I was like, well, what's that? I don't have that at my school. You don't have that at your school. And, she marched her 5'2" self into my elementary school and started a theater program for me. And yeah, so
Your grandma started it?
yes, she did.
I
She
love
did
that so much.
Act 2 Children's Theater. And then later on, when I was out of elementary school, I helped her direct and teach voice lessons and teach acting. I helped costume and stage and design the lighting, all of that. It was something that I started doing at a very early age with her.
Wow.
But yeah, and then in my adult years, I have kind of bounced around a bit. I moved to Utah after graduating high school from Spokane, and then was there. That's where I met my husband, and we lived in Provo for the majority of our time there. He's from Logan, so we lived there for a couple years off and on. Back to Spokane, back to Utah, back to Spokane, then to New York City for a little bit, and then back to Utah, then back to Spokane. So it's been kind of a journey as far as just life experience and different places that I've lived, different people that I've met, and of course my journey with spirituality and faith, gay, and growing up in the LDS church and trying to kind of reconcile those things, which don't always seem to, on the surface, go together, and maintain family connections through it all. I actually have a funny story about that. So my husband, when he and I were first dating, I told him, I was like, okay, here's the deal. My mom and I are like this, and I really like you, and I need to maintain my relationship with her. So you two need to get along and like each other." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm sure. Like, we'll like each other." I was like, "No, no, you don't understand. Like, this is a deal breaker if you don't get along with her." So we were going on a family camping trip about 2 hours away. And I told him, I was like, "Okay, so I'm going to drive the car and then you're going to ride with my mom." And he's like, "Wait,
Dang.
what?" I'm like, "Yeah, you're going to be riding in the car with her." "Well, why don't you just ride with us?" "No, you're going to be by yourself with my mom in a car for at least the 2 hours going to the campsite, and you're going to
Wow.
like each other by the time you get." So I'm a big believer in kind of just ripping off the band-aid and
Yes.
making things work for the sake of connection and for the sake of mental health and
Dude, I'm so obsessed.
family, because like I said, I wasn't going to settle for less than that,
That's
and that was
what you
always my top
wanted
priority.
in a relationship.
Yep, they bonded over a spider.
You know?
So they were
Sorry.
driving down the road, just things were a little bit awkward, but they were starting to, or so I'm told, they were starting to, connect on their stories, their past and everything. And then there was a spider that came on one of the visors in the car, and I think my husband was driving, and he's like, just starts screaming, and she's like, what? And he's like, "It's a spider." And then she starts screaming, and they're like swerving all over the road and pull over and, "You kill it. No, you kill it." And I don't know who ended up killing the spider,
But
but
they all lived happily ever
they
after.
all lived happily ever after, except for the spider.
Heavens. Okay, so fun. I love that story so much. Just like the humanity of it, right? Something like a spider. It's like this is something we can all agree
Yes,
on in this car is we hate spiders. And so there we go. We don't have to even have anything else in common. It's worth each other's time, right? I love that. So tell me about this project that you and your mom want or are starting. You guys are on your
absolutely.
way with it. Tell me
Well,
about
to
it.
start with that, I kind of want to backtrack actually and lead into that a little bit. So when I came out as dating Ty,
Were you out as gay before?
yes
Okay.
and no. It was yes, but in theory, I hadn't really dated anybody, and when I had, it wasn't serious, and I still had different life goals and everything that were more in line with my religious upbringing.
Which I think is important to this conversation. I'm assuming that's the religion your parents participate in,
Yes,
which I think is an important thing to understand as far as the connection with family. Yeah.
yes, absolutely, absolutely, and they are still very active. They actually just served a mission in Africa.
Oh, how amazing. That's so
Yes,
good for
yes.
them.
But when I came out as dating Ty, it was really difficult on my mom's and my relationship. Very, very
Mm,
difficult. We were incredibly close before that, but really our entire relationship, at least from my viewpoint, was built on our commonality of, sharing our religious views
gotcha.
and our routines and schedule and ritual that all comes with that. And then I move away. All of a sudden, I'm dating a man, and well, like I said, rip off the band-aid and just say, "Hey, this is what's happening."
Yep.
I kind of deal with it,
Yeah.
and it was really, really hard on our relationship, and we had to relearn how to connect with one another and
Mm,
relearn what our common ground is
mm,
within a mother-son relationship, and also help encourage others within our life and show them that it is possible to maintain a relationship and a connection in spite of religious or political differences, or in spite of really any difference. I'm very fortunate. My parents are both very involved with mental health and with their respective communities. My mom is a licensed counselor. My dad has gone through workshops and trainings and courses and all sorts of things. He's a teacher by trade, and he's very involved with the Native American culture here in Spokane. We're Spokane tribe, and she's very involved with her church. And then the dad that you met is my stepdad. My
got it.
parents were divorced later, but
Got it.
in any case, I'm very fortunate to have parents that understand connection, understand the value and importance of community, and hold a sanctity for family and that connection. And it is prioritized above all else. So with my mom and I rebuilding our relationship over the years, and I mean, it really didn't take that long because we were so close, but still,
Yeah.
it was rocky. It was rough for a while. But
When
helping
you have
other
this
people
common thing that
understand that.
I think that can go for spread across not just religion, but when you have something in common that's like a home base
Mhm.
for both of you, and then for one of you that shifts, it's like,
Absolutely.
okay, what, right? Like we've seen that in so many things in politics, and it's kind of the same
Absolutely.
thing. And I think even sometimes we want to say it's specific to this one religion or specific to this one political,
Mhm.
but really I feel like this is a bigger issue of learning how to connect with people that you don't agree
Yes.
with
Yes,
or
exactly.
that aren't sure. Maybe they don't even disagree with you, but they're just not sure that they do. And
Yeah.
maybe they once did and now they don't. And this, for whatever reason, a lot of people go down a path of divisiveness there. And I just think
Yes.
this is another option
Precisely.
presenting, and just even being in the atmosphere as you guys, I'm like, obviously I already believe in this, but proof in the pudding, having just met you, having you guys come up to my booth and
Mhm.
talk to you for a minute, you glow. There is a feeling there that is different. And that to me is proof enough of just like something that
Exactly.
they're doing is working in this family. And I want
Yes.
to replicate it.
Yes. And that's exactly what our podcast is going to be all about. We are going to call it I'll Walk With You. And it's going to be all about building connection, building unity in spite of differences, regardless of differences is a better word, regardless. It doesn't matter. We are all having a shared human experience. We all have the same emotions. We have similar life experience. We're all human. And if we can come together on that commonality instead of standing on ground that separates and differentiates between us, I really do believe that, and without the fear of sounding like a cliche, I think that we could heal the world if we can just not even agree to disagree, just come together on our common ground and respect one another and choose to love one another and reconcile. And that's really
Absolutely.
what our podcast is going to be all about, is to kind of show by example of how it can be done by having conversations with people that maybe we don't necessarily see eye to eye with, or having guests that can kind of share their own experience of a time when they disagreed and had to come together. I mean, it's one of the most basic even job interview questions is, when was a time tell me about a time when you didn't get along with a coworker and you had to make it work? It's just at the core of the function of our society is we have to be able to collaborate. We have to be able to come together and build community. Without it, we won't survive.
I agree. Was there something, so if there's someone listening that we've all been in your mom's position and we've all been in your position, I think,
Mm.
where one of us pulls away from, I don't even want to say pulls away from, but one of us questions a common belief or truth or whatever it is. Like, I know for me politically, there's been times in the last few years where I'm like, I don't know if I feel how my family feels about it. Like these dinner conversations, all of a sudden I'm feeling like, I don't know if I'm one of you anymore, right? Like,
It's a bit tense around the Thanksgiving table.
yeah, where you're like, before you're like, "Oh, yeah, yeah," and all of a sudden you're like, "Ooh, that was
Uh
like,"
huh.
right? And just, like, trying to navigate all that. So I've been the person that had a new view than what was the norm, and I feel like I've been the person that watched someone else start to challenge what I thought was the norm. I think most of us, I would guess all of us have been both people,
Yeah,
certainly different than your exact situation of you coming out as gay and
of
growing up in
course.
a religion the way that you did, but that principle, what worked? Like what helped when the struggle, when you and your mom felt the tension in your relationship? What are the things that you're like, that's what you do for either role?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, without trying to sound like a cliche, just choosing love, unconditional. And
What is that? Will you go in further? What do you mean by
yeah,
unconditional? How would you describe
yeah.
that to someone?
Of course, of course. So for me, what that means is prioritizing the well being of the other person while also not sacrificing your own well being and being willing to hold space for one another, being willing to have difficult conversations without getting defensive or reactive, being willing to not only hold space for one another, but share space. Once again, like I said, stand on common ground and just have mutual respect and recognize that we are individuals. We are having our own individual human experience. And that is valid and that is beautiful and that is not something to be demonized or weaponized, but something to be seen and understood and celebrated.
Do you feel like, I love all that. Do you feel like you can pinpoint why you've been able to do that when some haven't in your situation? Like, are there certain ways that you feel like were instilled in you beforehand or experiences you had in other contexts that prepared you to be able to do that with your family when other families aren't able to or
Yeah.
don't choose that path?
I would say so. Being willing to face the uncomfortable, being willing to sit through misunderstandings and tears and anger, and not necessarily in my case, but in maybe others, in times of hatred or malice. Being willing and strong enough as an individual to stand through that for the end goal
I love
of unity, because when we run when it gets hard, we don't get to that goal. And that's not to say that, we should stay in abusive relationships or that we should, not stand up for ourselves or place ourselves beneath another person in the sense of victimhood, but that if we can share that goal of coming together and hold true to that and persevere and push through the hard. That's what I think has separated us, I guess. Not necessarily being special because I think anybody can, but I think that's been the success of our relationship is that we had that shared end goal of where we wanted to end up and we weren't going to settle for less.
It reminds me a lot just of the Robert Frost poem, The Path Untraveled, whatever we call
Mm,
you know what I'm talking about. Oh, it comes to my mind so much that there's just different choices in life, and often when I speak, that's what I'm reminded of as I talk to different people is there's no convincing people how to do their job or telling them what to do. All you can do is offer, "Here's another way, and here's how I've seen
yeah,
benefit," and then it's up to people's agency.
absolutely.
We're all big kids that get to choose, but there is maybe some of us didn't grow up knowing there was another choice.
Yeah.
We're not seeing a lot of examples that are
Hmm.
I mean, we've got algorithms, we've got AI, maybe that's not
Hmm.
always what's pushed to the forefront is not every mom and son that go this route do act that way.
Yeah.
Some of them are really happy and some of them are really connected.
Yes.
Neither of them had to sacrifice themselves to do that.
Yes.
And I think
Yeah, absolutely.
that is love in a relationship, like you talk about, that is unconditional love. Gosh, I'm just so excited about this project you and your mom are doing, and I feel lucky to know you guys. I love that you're doing this. Your parents are coming on the ICU Living Cruise, which I'm really
Yes,
excited about, and just they are just warm, kind people,
truly.
and I like to think that I'm sure, like you said, as you talked about being experiences maybe that prepared you for this, I'm sure that this didn't come for free, this
No.
big relationship, right? That's how I felt when I met my husband for the first time. We went to lunch and I was like, as I talked to him, that's what I kept thinking. There's no way I feel it, feel goodness, and I feel emotional intelligence, and I feel these things. And I know well enough to know that I don't know what I don't know, and that there's no way you got here for free. And
Yeah.
that's true, right? When you meet people that have done the work, man, it takes perseverance. And so I just want to honor you for that and just offer that to other people. It's an ongoing journey and process, but it's one that as I continue on it, I mean, I'd never want to go back with the greater peace I have now and being able to see people
Yes.
who agree with me. Like, it's such a relief to be able to like connect with such a broader audience of people because they don't have to think how I do. And I feel like I like learn so much more and even my own beliefs that I hold dear as I test them out and as I the ones that have stayed are even stronger because of my exposure to
Absolutely.
ideas and different people, like, what I believe in a stronger way than I ever have because I've sorted it out with a real life richer experience with which includes people that disagree with me that I dearly love.
I think that connecting with others and prioritizing relationship will always benefit the individual. Truly. Yes, it's great to have connection, to have friends, to have family that, you can agree with and everything that way. That's important, but to connection is only ever going to broaden our perspective, is only ever going to help us foster compassion for other people that have maybe even more extreme differing views than ourselves. If we can't reconcile on maybe a small difference, how can we hope to reconcile on larger differences on the grander, maybe even world stage? I
Why
think
do you
that
think
it's important to connect with our immediate circles first.
hmm, why do you think I was gonna ask something else, but why do you say that connect with immediate circles first?
Because I think that the people that are around us create our world. They say that you're the average of your five closest people or your five closest friends, right? There's always going to be, not to put people above or below, but
Right.
for the sake of this demonstration or this illustration, there's always going to be somebody that's, maybe above you on the social scale and somebody below. And when we connect and unify and then we build a relationship with one person, where then we can connect with somebody within their realm of influence and and just our circles are just going to expand and then overlap with one another. So I think that when we really focus on developing and healing relationships within our immediate realm of influence, and if each of us as an individual do that, then we are more likely to be able to reach further and further distances later on. But really, I think that it starts within the individual and then it works out from there.
Yeah. And for people that I think there's a really cool visual graphic you need to make of that. I'm, like, picturing Venn diagrams as you were explaining.
Right?
I'm
Get
like,
out the whiteboard.
yeah, yeah, I know it. Where's the whiteboard? I think as I was thinking about those circles expanding, I was thinking about the people I know where for like you talked about, for very intense circumstances, they have had to pull very permanently away from people close to
Yes.
them in their most immediate. And I like to think though, I know in my own life and other people's experiences, what I've heard from them is there does seem to be maybe like some overlap of other circles, maybe closing in that gap a little bit, covering like if
Mhm.
they're like circles next to each other, maybe that circle is able to cover in those gaps a little bit. I know for me, when I haven't been able to turn to some people close to me for whatever reason, I have been able, as I've reached out, I've been able to find other people to fill that in, and that's
Absolutely.
been a beautiful thing because no one has the ideal, if whatever in whatever even that concept of ideal means, but no one has a family and a close, circle of friends that can be what they need all the time.
Yes.
That's just not reality of
No.
humanity and struggles and time of life, and so I love the idea of other circles also making up the difference and
Absolutely.
needed.
And to kind of bounce off of what you're saying, I think it's also almost great practice, if you will, to have conversations or to get out kind of some of those hard feelings or those hard emotions, to process them and get through them either with a therapist or close friend or a different circle that you're also a part of, where then you can kind of practice those skills of reconciliation
Yeah,
and then bring them back to the more difficult relationships that you have in your life. And again, there are always going to be those extreme outliers of,
of course. Yeah,
things that are maybe not going to be repaired.
right.
That is a reality. Sorry, I froze for a second.
No, you're fine. Just pick up where you I'll just tell my assistant to edit it, no problem.
Okay, one moment. I don't know how that call got through. I was on Do Not Disturb.
You're totally fine, and we'll wrap up here anyway, so just you're good.
Yeah, absolutely. Where was I? I forgot.
You were talking about, hang on. There's always Carly, edit all of this. There's always those outlier extremes. I think just pick up there.
Yeah. Okay. there are always going to be those outlying extremes where maybe a relationship can't be healed or won't be healed. I think that it has to be a mutual exchange, and not everybody is willing to do that work because it is work. It can be very difficult. However, if we prioritize maintaining and healing ourselves and relationships wherever they might be, again, it builds that strength, kind of like an emotional muscle in our minds, in our hearts, in our being, where we then might gain more tools for our tool belt to come back and help those more difficult relationships, or at least learn to, I guess, just be okay and learn to forgive for yourself.
Well said. Thanks for being on the podcast today. I really appreciate your experience and perspective, and I think it is going to help a ton of people. It's helped me a lot. You conceptualized that really well today. So the podcast is going to be called I'll Walk With You.
Yes,
Very cool. And is it in the process of getting started?
it is in the process. So we don't have much information of advertisement yet, but
It's okay.
we're working
Tell
on it.
people to look out for it because I think it's going to be a great force for good and very needed in our time. So, and I can't wait to cruise with your parents, your fun parents that I like.
Absolutely.
I'll have to bring them up on stage or something. What a cool couple.
Yes.
Give them a moment. Dakota, thanks for being on the ICU podcast today. See you, listeners. Thanks for hanging out with us for this conversation, and we will see you next time. Hey, listeners. I'm Julie DeJesus, founder of ICU Living. No matter what we do here, we are all things ICU. That's why I've rebranded my keynote speaking and consulting as ICU Leadership, a branch of ICU Living. I help leaders turn human connection into their most powerful strategy for keeping great people and bringing out their best. My secret weapon? What it's always been, being real. Remember, happiness isn't your business. Connection is. Visit iculeadership.com to find out more.